Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the stage Meredith Anderson from News 12.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this year's Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce Women in Business Signature event. We have a wonderful program in store for you this evening, and I am honored again to serve as your MC for tonight. This event is always one of my favorite events of the entire year because it honors the contributions of professional women. Each year, we seek out trailblazers in their fields to help us celebrate the achievements that women bring our communities. And I'd like to take a minute here to give a round of applause to all the men in the audience today, because this is a whole lot of estrogen. So a big pat on the back for being here to support women in business. Women who are often multitaskers, who have a lot of plates to juggle, you know. Oh, speaking of which, hold on for a second. Hey, Siri, could you set my alarm for 6:30 in the morning? Thanks so much.
Okay, I found this on the web for lunch.
You are such a lifesaver, Siri.
Here's what I found on the web for lunch.
I apparently don't speak clearly enough, although my daughter Ella grabbed the phone today and asked who's the fairest of them all, and she was not happy when it said Meredith. Just saying. She's like, Mommy, really? But this year we are delighted to have the women with a very familiar voice. I'm sure lots of you have heard this voice, hear this voice, ask questions of this voice. I know I do. I know I could not set an alarm on my own without Siri, so thanks to you, Siri. But we are delighted to have the woman here behind that voice, the actual voice, the one who has taken personal technology to new levels. If you have an iPhone, you know her as your own personal assistant, Siri, and she knows everything. I'm serious, everything. Have you ever asked her how many planes are overhead? It's a little scary. You will have the flight number and where it's going. Not even kidding. And on the way over here, I asked her who was going to win the Georgia-Florida game, and she said, Georgia has the better record. So, yeah, she does know everything. Right? Siri, where have you been all of our lives? Well, we are delighted this evening for you to meet the woman behind the voice, Susan Bennett. And Susan, we are so excited that you're here because we get to see the face of the person who talks to us 500 times a day. But we get a sneak peek also into the world of voice talent. Susan's trailblazing career is a remarkable story of twists and turns, perseverance, and of course something we all can take away from this tonight, capitalizing on one's own unique assets. How do you get to be one of the most famous voices in the world? Well, tonight we get to ask Siri that in person. So a big welcome to Susan Bennett. To begin this evening and to provide a short welcome, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Carolyn Ash, the 2014 chair of the Women in Business Steering Committee. She is a well-known local real estate agent with Blanchard and Calhoun and is serving her second year as chair. It's a lot of work, so please help me welcome Ms. Carolyn Ash.
Thank you, Meredith, and good evening. On behalf of the entire Women in Business Committee and staff and board of directors of the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you all to tonight's event. Women in Business is a network that brings together and supports professional women. The network provides a positive and creative environment in which to develop our businesses and to find solutions to problems. The Women in Business program works to promote the business needs of women and recognizes that women face certain challenges. In summary, equipping, encouraging, and empowering the business community is the goal of Women in Business. We believe that we strengthen our community by providing distinct and unique opportunities to understand, appreciate, and advocate for women in the workplace. I would like to thank all of tonight's companies and organizations that are sponsors for this evening's program. Throughout the year and for tonight's event, your support helps our community be better at what we do. For 2014, our average monthly attendance at our Women in Business luncheons has grown by 20%. Each month, we offer wonderful speakers and on abundant topics, and we've even crossed over the gender barrier by recruiting many more men. Thank you for your support for this great program, and especially for being able to present such a wonderful evening tonight. The members of the Women in Business Committee are an amazing group of volunteers, and I would like to just take a moment to mention their names and the companies they represent. Susan Fanning, Shepherd Blood Center, Sally West, Greater Augusta Arts Council, Helga Utz, Scana Energy, Alatoria Cranford, Payne College, Leidra Collins, Payne College, Susan Laywell, John Deere, Courtney Bodie, Moses Law Group, Marie Jackson, University Hospital, Dr. Felicia Lee, Richmond County Association of Educators, Dawn Jones, Kudos for You, Lindsay Jacobs, Cruhu, Terry Mobley, Georgia Regents University, Allison Stanley, First Bank of Georgia, Heather Morin, Cherry Beckert, and Lillian Hubert, Chick-fil-A Augusta Exchange. Again, thank you for being with us this evening, and we hope you have a wonderful time.
And thank you, Carolyn, for your leadership as chair of the Women in Business Steering Committee. For those of you who don't know, serving as chair requires a year-round effort, not only planning this event, but also managing the monthly Women in Business luncheons held each month right here at the Legends Club. Carolyn, we are grateful for your contributions. Thank you. Tonight's event would not be possible without the support of many businesses in our community. Each year, this event is an opportunity to see a bunch of women in business, but also to celebrate the businesses in our community that honor women's contributions every single day. And I'd like to take a few minutes to share some of those business names. At the top level of sponsors this evening are signature sponsors. Ours this year include ADP, represented here tonight by Dr. Dave Brenza, who we'll hear from right after dinner. ADP has been a returning sponsor year after year for this event, and we truly appreciate their support. So let's give them a round of applause. Thanks, ADP. Our second signature sponsor this evening, American Family Insurance. The American Family team will be represented tonight by Heather Lowe, who you will also hear from tonight after dinner. So thank you, American Family Insurance. Also at the signature sponsorship level, we have Ocasio, whose contributions in design and marketing this event this year and every year are just truly remarkable. Thank you to the Ocasio team led by Russ Kruger for your incredible talent and for your support, your continued support. We will also have a chance to hear from Russ a little later in the program. And to complete our signature sponsors this evening, we have John Deere, and we will hear from Kim Ryder later in the program. So to the John Deere team here tonight, thank you for your support. Serving as one of our special new signature sponsors this evening is DSW, Designer Shoe Warehouse. And I don't have to tell a room full of women that it is now open. I certainly don't. It is time for you to update your shoe wardrobe, and I haven't wasted any time. So thank you, DSW, for making a very loud statement tonight. They want to be your favorite new store in Augusta, and ladies, I don't think that we have a problem with that. So to kind of get you in the store, DSW is providing everyone here with a $10 gift card towards your fabulous next pair of shoes. And if you, by the way, if you go in the store and you sign up for the rewards program, you get lots of coupons and free shipping, and there's a $15 off coupon floating around social media right now. Oh yeah, you can stretch that $10, let me tell you. So anyway, don't leave tonight without your special attendee package compliments of DSW. Designer Shoe Warehouse was also our VIP reception sponsor this evening as a great way to support high heels in high places. Please help me with a big round of applause for Designer Shoe Warehouse. 1, for being here in Augusta. 2, for helping with tonight. And 3, for giving us a little incentive, like we needed one, to go in there to shop. At the gold level, we would like to thank our friends at Georgia Regents University, Augusta. They have a continued commitment to helping us create a wonderful evening every single year. GRU Augusta's generosity and employment of hundreds of professional women in our community is really a testament to their desire to support professional development and excellence in the workplace. So thanks to you, GRU Augusta. You can clap. Also at the gold level this year is Savannah River Nuclear Solutions, whose new president and CEO, Carol Johnson, is the first female president of the managing contractor at Savannah River site since the beginning of the site in the 1950s. So you go, girl. Talk about high heels and high places, right? To the team at SRNS, thank you for all that you do to support the Chamber and the Women in Business program. We can clap again. We were a little premature. During the list of sponsors tonight at the silver level are AT&T and Georgia Power, two of our finest companies in the region that support the growth of business and the development of professional women. Stan Shepard with AT&T is here tonight, and I'm sure with a phone in hand to remind us to rethink possible with AT&T. AT&T Georgia is also proud to have as their president Beth Shiroshi, named just this year in January. So you go, girl, too. Let's have another round of applause for AT&T. Represented here tonight by Georgia Power is Fran Forehand, East Georgia Region Vice President and an accomplished executive with the Georgia Power team as well. Fran, thank you for your support tonight, and let's have a round of applause for Georgia Power. And for keeping the lights on. We have 3 outstanding organizations represented here tonight through a bronze level of support. Generously contributing to tonight's program are accomplished real estate agent with Blanchard & Calhoun, who you just met earlier if you did not know her already, Carolyn Ash, Charlene Sizemore and her daughter Michelle Ansley with Workforce Capital, and Scana Energy represented here tonight by Women in Business Committee member Helga Utz. Ladies, thank you for your contributions and thank you for being here tonight. And finally, our media sponsors for the Women in Business Signature event have provided valuable visibility for this event. Our attendance tonight is largely attributable to the wonderful advertising services brought to you by, I think, the best station in Augusta, WRDW News 12. A big thank you to my boss, John Ray, for his leadership in the Chamber and for working with this event. And he is not wearing high heels tonight. John, I wish you would have. It would have been good. No? No. No. Okay, Meredith, sorry. Also, the Augusta Chronicle, through their print and digital services, were able to reach a wide audience, and we appreciate the support of President Dana Atkins and his team. Big round of applause for the Chronicle. And finally, on our media team, we would like to thank Ivy Elam with iHeartMedia Augusta. The airwaves were bursting this year in promotion of this event, and we cannot thank you enough. I know you guys are wanting to work on the salad, so we're working through the clapping pretty quick, I promise. To all of our sponsors here this evening, again, thank you so much for your support. Before we begin the dinner service, I would like to ask Reverend Dr. Cynthia Taylor with the Church of the Holy Comforter to provide our invocation. Dr. Taylor?
I think we may have 2 blessings. The first is for those of y'all who have already started eating. And it's my favorite blessing, which is, all that is within me, bless his holy name. For those of y'all who have been patient, let us pray. Creator God, may the noise and hurry of the day break their hold on us. For we have slipped away for this small amount of time to be fed in body and mind and spirit. Let the rumble of traffic diminish along with the cares of the day, so that we may enjoy true fellowship and encouragement with one another. Grant us hearts open to joy and beauty, and not be so overwhelmed by darkness and despair that we forget to see that every bush is aflame with your love. Inspire us to set fire in our own corner of the world with love, compassion, and encouragement. We ask this blessing upon ourselves, upon this food, not just for our own sake, but for the sake of others. This we ask, O High King of Heaven. Amen.
Please welcome back to the stage Meredith Anderson, your host for this evening from News Channel 12.
Good evening once again, everyone. And if you did not like the dessert, if cheesecake is not your favorite, you can just put it on my table and I will happily take care of it. You're welcome. Just taking one for the team. We hope you've had a wonderful dinner and that you are as excited as I am to begin our program. As I mentioned earlier, we would like to take a few minutes to hear from signature level sponsors this evening. ADP, American Family Insurance, John Deere, Ocasio as well. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Dave Brenza, Vice President, General Manager of the ADP Augusta Solution Center, to say a few words.
Thank you, Meredith. But before I start, I'd like everybody to maybe give a round of applause for the Chamber of Commerce for a great event tonight. How's that? Again, we'd really like to thank Sue Parr and Butch Hawley for really hosting this event and putting this on. It really is a phenomenal event. The other thing, too, is that I really like to thank the Chamber for their commitment to the Women in Business program. The Chamber's dedication to promoting the achievement of women in the business community shows their progressive thinking and celebrates the achievement of women in business. At ADP's Augusta Solutions Center, our associate population is dominated by a female population and workforce that boasts high associate engagement and productivity measurements. In reviewing our leadership roles, women make up 65% of our frontline managers, directors, and vice president roles. It's a proven fact, gender balance delivers better and more sustainable performance. Companies with more gender-balanced leadership teams outperform those with less. And companies that employ this balanced approach yield career opportunities for their associates and create a distinct competitive advantage in the marketplace. So on behalf of ADP, we'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for promoting the importance of women in business and the opportunity to help support the signature event tonight. Thank you.
Now from American Family Insurance, I would like to ask Ms. Heather Lowe to join me on stage. Heather?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather, and I'm here on behalf of American Family Insurance. I just want to take a moment and welcome everyone for being here. I know this is American Family's second year being a part of this event, and this is by far one of my favorites. I mean, have you seen her shoes? So if you don't know about American Family Insurance by now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. We've been protecting dreams for 87 years now, and we've been in the Augusta market for a little over 2 years. The company is absolutely amazing. We have 2 locations in Augusta. We have one in Evans and one in Augusta off Perimeter Parkway. So I encourage you to, if you don't know enough about our company, to look us up. You can find more information on amfam.com/Georgia. You can give one of our local stores an office. We do offer local service here in Augusta, and we'll continue to be a part of community events like this. So everyone enjoy your evening, and thank you.
Also, along with our next signature sponsor, John Deere. And ladies, how funny is the ad in the program that says, I've got a to-do list and 5 acres of fresh air? Because isn't that what we all need? Please help me welcome Kim Ryder. Kim.
Good evening. Meredith, can you ask Siri where the best place to be in Augusta is tonight?
I think she'd say right here.
I think so too. Hi, I'm very honored to represent my company, John Deere, tonight. I want to thank the Chamber and the Women in Business Committee for putting on such a lovely event. We're not only a sponsor for tonight's Women in Business signature event, but John Deere also encourages networking at our factory through our Women's Reach Group, which sponsors many events. The Women's Reach Group and John Deere recognize the importance of reaching out to the up-and-coming women in business in our community. Recently, we held a half-day event for a group of 50 8th-grade girls from various middle schools in Columbia County. We held some hands-on activities, with each participant got to see firsthand what it was really like to be an engineer for 4 hours. We also ended with a question and answer session for the team with some of our female engineers. We asked the group at the beginning of the event and at the end of the event if they thought that they would be interested in becoming an engineer. By the end of the event, we saw that 25% of the girls had changed their mind and said, yeah, I think I would like to pursue engineering. So with that kind of encouragement, we're going to hold other events in the upcoming months to promote women in business and other things. So on behalf of John Deere, I'd like to encourage and challenge each of you to reach out to our Women in Business of tomorrow. Again, thank you for the opportunity to sponsor tonight's event.
As a mom to a little girl, I'm glad you're reaching out in the math and science and engineering areas because a lot of girls miss that. So that encouragement is needed. Our final signature sponsor to bring comments this evening is the team behind our incredible printed program ad tonight and all the advertising that went into promoting this year's event. Please help me welcome Mr. Russ Kruger with Ocasio. Russ.
So I saw the bag some of the women got from DSW. That was pretty cool. How about maybe next year the guys get a John Deere Gator? Feeling a little left out. I want to share with you two numbers and ask Siri for a little help here. So those numbers are 10 and 35. So let's try this. Siri, what does the number 10 mean? You didn't do that well, Meredith. Siri, what does the number 35 mean?
35, the number of states where Ocasio has clients.
So we're relatively creative. Don't fear. This is real big print for old people. So rather than to tell you about Ocasio, I thought I would let some of our clients tell you just very briefly. We have lots of women who run companies, healthcare companies across the country that we do business with. So our team pulled a couple of things out. This is Cindy Sheffield, the president and COO of E4 Health in Dallas, Texas. Ocasio is a company with creative passion and dedication to their clients who take the time to understand the products, the services, and goals. They quickly become a strategic partner and not just another vendor. And then a fun lady from Southfield, Michigan, Mindy Fink, president and CEO of EHIM, another healthcare company. From my very first meeting with Ocasio, I knew they understood my vision and how I wanted my organization to be represented in the healthcare space. The marketing strategy Ocasio has developed for EHIM is innovative, relevant, and informative. And finally, from Cleveland, Ohio, what is an organization called that doesn't think like you do? That comes up with ideas that you wish you could, and think so far out of the box you can't find the box. Ocasio. If you're bold enough to try them, they'll make you think differently about the direction of your company. You know, it's always nice to have other people say really good things about you, and we're very, very fortunate to be a part of this event. Thank you. And Siri, thank you for that last minute help there, Meredith.
I'm sorry. To hear that voice come out of a person just now. Sorry about that. That was cool, though. But ladies and gentlemen, the moment we have been waiting for, I would like to ask Mr. Larry Jones, Chairman of the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce and President of Universal Plumbing, to introduce tonight's speaker.
Wow, isn't this a great event? Let's give the Chamber another round of applause. I have a fantastic job as chairman of the board of directors. I get a chance to introduce very famous people, and I also get a chance to just read off of a piece of paper what a brilliant mind or what brilliant minds have already kind of constructed. And so I'm sort of like this robot that they make look good, and I appreciate that. And I also was sitting next to Siri, and that makes me look good too. I also took a photograph with her out earlier, and I'll make sure around my colleagues that I look good too, because I'll show it to them. Here again, we are very fortunate to have such a chamber as we do in the city of Augusta in this area. I'm very fortunate, again, as I mentioned earlier, to be a part of this great entity. I was standing in the foyer as people were coming in, and you all look great. It's like you're going to a red carpet event. And I just kind of wanted to put that out for you and just kind of give you kudos for that. Now, I was sitting next to Siri. Obviously, we look nothing alike. Our sizes are different. Our tone of voices are different. But I think that somewhere along the way, there is something that's kind of synonymous with our names. Larry, Siri. Honestly, when I order food, and I don't know what it is about my voice, when I order food over the telephone and they ask me, says, what name? I says, Larry Jones. You say, Mary Jones? Larry Jones. And so from now on, what I'll start doing is say, Siri Jones. I think it's fair tonight to say that the best known and unknown is the voice of Siri. I had no idea. Like Meredith just said, you know, it's just kind of amazing to put a face with this voice that knows literally everything. And I'll begin to introduce Susan Bennett. She had a career as a singer, a musician, and voice talent spans for 25 years. Over that time, she has had the opportunity to become the voice for companies such as Ford, Coca-Cola, Fisher-Price, Delta Airlines, McDonald's, the Home Depot, Goodyear, and of course, Apple's iPhone. Susan began her career as a singer, and at one time sang backup for Burt Bacharach and Roy Orbison. She is a native of New England and attended Brown University. How many people can say that they are Betty Boop? A 20-something counter girl, an aging British actress, a school principal, and yes, even a tree. What's it like to have one of the most famous voices in the world? Well, we're about to find out in just a second. But before I ask her to come to the stage, it's only been just recently that I was able to get rid of my old telephone. My company didn't see any need for me to have an updated phone. I did everything that I could to get, so we don't have any more upgrades. I'll pay for the phone. I just need one of those phones that they're walking around talking in. Well, we got an upgrade coming in. Now, mind you, now, I sign the checks. Well, I'll take that back. I don't sign the checks. They stamp the checks with my name on them. Anyway, I'm going to give you an inside secret. I tore that old phone up. I did. I tore it up because I wanted a phone. And I finally I broke it. And I got this iPhone with the big screen. I was in hog heaven. Knew nothing about this phone. And they told me at the center, well, you know, in order to get good at this thing, you just got to play with it. You just got to work with it. You know, you don't read no, you just got to, the more you play with it, the better you get. And so I stumbled up on the app of Siri. And I started asking her questions. And she knew all the answers. My wife had gone off. This is my wife, Jeanette. Show your hands, sweetheart. That's so I can get in the house tonight. Anyway, I'm playing with this phone on the sofa, right? And I'm at home. And I'm asking these questions. I'm asking difficult questions. She answered every question. And so I said, who are you? I think you know the answer to that. You're wonderful. We appreciate you. We thank you for coming to speak to us. And I've always wanted to know how this guy felt. And tonight I know. And so now I'd like to welcome to the stand. Here's Siri.
Thank you so much. This has just been overwhelming. You're so wonderful. I met so many people in the foyer earlier tonight. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at the Women in Business Signature event for 2014. Thank you so much to the Augusta Chamber and all of the sponsors. And I have to say I'm really excited to be here because, you know, Siri doesn't get out too much. Before I go into the story of Siri, let's consider exactly what Siri is. From my point of view, Siri is probably the most best-known female voiceover ever. Now, voiceover is my business, speaking about women in business. And if you're not familiar with it, what it is basically is acting for the voice, for radio and television commercials, for industrials, for audiobooks, promos, etc., all kinds of things. And like other forms of acting, it's not for the faint of heart because you don't always know where your job is coming from. It can be very inconsistent. So those of us who do it as a living basically are freelancers. We don't really know where and when our next job is coming from. And consequently, that can be a very interesting life. And so we never know exactly what we're doing, except we do know it's going to involve a microphone, and it's going to involve recording what we say. Now, talking about women in business, our business, the voiceover business, is pretty male-dominated, especially the big-ticket gigs, like national spokesmen and the announcers who read promos and movie trailers, things like that. A lot of those jobs do go to the men, but I think it's because culturally we associate the male voice with authority and with gravitas. For instance, in a world. Next on AMC, The Walking Dead, or as I like to call it, Exploding Heads. So you can see that that's the male area. Female voices are often more associated with information, even consolation, Our voices are very much associated with healthcare, beauty, fashion, IVR, which is interactive voice recognition like Siri, and also for messaging for phone systems, which of course makes perfect sense because all of the original phone operators were women. So we're used to hearing women's voices in that context. So it can be a very, very interesting way of life, and digital voices are often very, very much women because of the informational thing and the phone operator thing. So I'll have to say thank you. This is a nice area for women to do a lot of voiceover work. Digital voices do come from real humans. When I revealed myself as Siri last year, I met a lot of people who were absolutely shocked that there was a person behind the voice. And I guess they just assumed that all of these digital voices were machine generated. Well, machines can speed up the voice, slow down the voice, add reverb to the voice, compress the voice, but the actual sound itself has to come from a real human so far. There's no telling where it's heading from here. And so consequently, the digital voices are very similar in a lot of ways. And the sound is pretty consistent. It was a very difficult thing to do, to read this type of thing. It's hard for you to imagine sitting there for hour upon hour reading things like in the same pacing, the same tone. And so that's what the digital voices are all about. Some of the digital voices, well, I guess all of the digital voices, those of us who read those scripts found it very, very interesting because the scripts were written particularly for sound and not content. So in other words, the creators of these phrases and sentences that we had to read were thinking only about getting the greatest number of sound combinations in the language, and they didn't really care how they were saying this. So consequently, some of these phrases and sentences were pretty darn strange, especially some of the earlier text-to-speech scripts. Now, text-to-speech refers to the companies that do this kind of work. And the work that they do is called concatenation. Technicians go in after the recordings have been done and extract sounds, vowels, consonants, diphthongs, syllables, and words, and they put them back together, create new phrases and sentences that end up on your digital devices. So it's actually a pretty amazing thing. I took the liberty of bringing a script with me tonight to show you some of these incredibly interesting, I guess we can call them interesting phrases and sentences. Allow me to indulge myself a moment and read you a little bit of what I like to call text-to-speech poetry. Now, this script came from many years ago, actually, and it was directed by a woman who was an audiologist and a linguist, so she was very, very exacting about how I was to speak and pronounce everything, because as you can imagine, the technicians had to go in afterwards and separate all these different sounds, so we had to speak very articulately. In fact, I had to wear a type of belt around my neck called a laryngograph because it went over the larynx, and what it was doing was measuring the sound waves and the vibrations coming from the vocal cords. So talk about crazy. Those were very memorable sessions for me. So allow me to read a little bit of what I read for these people. Please don't cry. In Dylan Wenga Yell, Spinga Spigot Clinic. Oil your mill's jewel weed today. The teller sallow the tally. Say the zzz ding again. Militia oi hallucinate buckra okra ooze. Spubba puff vacua open porn. Cathexis fep atully sexual ease stump. Shenga itch scholar woof jana thug. Tivia clibby plebeian. Thrubber Ivid, Thrush Bur Izzard. Thank you. And I did not make those up. So you can imagine that the programmers, the technicians that did this work, really had a lot to do. That was a pretty complicated job, and they were very, very important. So what I'd like to say about your devices, I know I've heard from a lot of you about having some problems with your devices at times. Perhaps you're speaking to Siri, and she doesn't maybe understand you very well. Maybe you speak too fast, or you have a bit of an accent or something. Let me caution you, please do not curse at Siri. She is extremely sensitive, and she's vindictive. No, I suggest that you go over Siri's head completely and just talk to Tim Cook about all this. But if you want to think about technology and how amazingly fast technology moves, think back to the original digital voices that we used to hear. They were pretty strange sounding. For instance, something like, "Hello, how are you? I am not doing too well." Now, we couldn't really talk to these voices. We certainly couldn't interact with them, and we probably didn't even want to. But that's what made the original voice of Siri so iconic, is that she was the first concatenated voice that sounded human. And you could interact with her. And she had a personality, maybe attitude even, and also a sense of humor. I remember when the 4S first came out, I had just purchased an iPhone 4, so I didn't rush right out to buy the new phone, but my husband did. So like everyone else, we talked to Siri. And one day I said, "Hey, Siri, what are you doing?" And she says rather disdainfully, "I'm talking to you." So Siri is quite a character, and I think that we have Steve Jobs to thank for that. He was very, very instrumental in developing Siri and programming Siri. And I think that he is pretty much responsible for a lot of her attitude and her sense of humor, and certainly some of the comedy that you can find if you speak correctly to Siri. For instance, one of his favorite comedy groups was the Firesign Theater. Has anyone heard of that group? Probably older people will know this group better than younger people because they started off in the 1970s. They're still going strong today. Phil Proctor is a very involved actor. But this group was an improvisational group, a sketch comedy group. And the thing that really kind of distinguished them is that a lot of their comedy was about the future. They amazingly, in the 70s, predicted some of the ways that we're living now and the types of technology that we're using today. For example, there is one sketch they have about a computer hacker named Clem. Well, Clem decides he wants to go to the Fair of the Future so that he can hack into the main computer there. So he goes to the Fair of the Future, which of course is run by computers, robots, and holograms. So Clem arrives at the door, and he goes in, and a hologram accosts him and asks his name, and he's so taken aback for a moment that he goes, Clem. And so from then on, of course, he's known as Clem. Now, Clem called himself Worker. So if you speak to Siri and you say, "Hi, Siri, Worker speaking," Siri will respond, "Hello, Clem. What function may I perform for you?" It's true, try it. And also another example is if you ask Siri the meaning of life, more often than not, she will say 42, which refers to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And so all of this came from Steve Jobs. So we can thank him for a lot of the humor from Siri. Now, with the OS 7 operating system, Apple completely changed all of the original Siris worldwide. They were all changed. And the new voices, to me, are a little bit more generic, a little bit less sassy maybe, and definitely appealing to younger people because Siri now says LOL. Larry David will be very upset about that. But think about it. Maybe it's because they couldn't really figure out how to make Siri laugh. Now, what would Siri laughing sound like? Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Maybe not. We may never know. Anyway, how Siri came about is that my voice was selected for the Sirius satellite network. And so obviously that's where the name Siri came from. Apple bought the network and acquired the voice, and then they kind of, made it their own. They did a little work in the studio and made it sound the way they wanted to sound. I have read that they wanted it to sound otherworldly and have a dry sense of humor. And because of this, most people don't recognize my natural speaking voice as being that of Siri. Siri's voice is pitched a little bit lower. And also, when she first came out, certainly she was a little bit robotic sounding. And because you're hearing her voice through all of these tiny, tiny speakers in your devices, it also sounds a tiny bit tinny. Well, there's a cute story related to all this. Last Halloween, we had a lot of trick-or-treaters, and one little boy came up and said, "Hey, all the neighbors say you're Siri." And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "You don't sound like Siri." And I said, "How about now?" His jaw dropped, his eyes popped open, he grabbed his candy and ran. Well, that's what we voiceover people do. We change our voices. Not so much the guys, the wealthy, big announcer guys, but those of us who are working voice actors pretty much have to have a range of voices. We want to be able to fit into as many situations as we possibly can, which would mean, of course, more work for us. And so we do have some different voices. For example, if you were to call your bank, you more than likely would hear my voice say, "Thank you for calling your bank. I'm sorry, your account is now overdrawn. Have a nice day. Goodbye." Then, if you happen to call Macy's, you'll hear my voice in a totally different mode. "Thank you for calling Macy's. Your card is now ready for use. Please use it now. Thank you for shopping with us." If you go on to the web and look up a children's Christmas website called clauskids.com, and you should do it, it's really cute, it's wonderful, it's a very educational thing for kids. You'll hear my voice as an old tree named Conifer. "Oh, well, I'm so glad you could be here with me in my forest. Oh, it's so lovely to see you. Please come back again soon. Bye-bye." Or there is the baker, Ms. Pizzelle from New York City. "Oh, there you are. I wondered where you'd gone. You can feel free to drop by any time and say hello and maybe sample some of my cookies." Or there's the little girl elf named Star. "Hello. I'm so glad to meet you. You know what? I'm going up to the North Pole. Would you like to come with me? You would? Oh, boy!" And then, of course, there's your lovely neighbor, a wonderful woman who is more than happy to share her recipe for fried green tomatoes with you. Thank you. One of my favorites, event planner Shaka Cohen. "Hello, darling. You've heard of Shaka Khan, the singer. I'm Shaka Cohen. I do everything, darling. Weddings, bar mitzvahs, the whole thing. Call me, darling." Perhaps sexy British spy Priscilla Lies-a-Lot. Hello, James. I'm so glad you could come. I'm so sorry, but I must kill you now. Okay, one of my favorites, probably the highlight of my entire career, the singing chicken for Zeneca Agricultural Products. And another of my all-time favorites, Madame Francesca. Madame Francesca would love to read Crystal Ball for you. Ah, you will meet tall, dark stranger. Well, if Madame Francesca had been around during my childhood, she would have had no trouble at all figuring out what I was going to end up doing with my life in the future. Based on my two favorite toys, one was a miniature one-octave piano that I could play by ear, and the other was a telephone operator's system. Now, I'm sure that more than 50% of the people in this room are going, what? Yes, it was a system, and I could plug in all the cables and answer the phone. And so it's no surprise that I ended up being a singer and a voice talent whose voice is on hundreds of phone systems. Well, it all began for me in Burlington, Vermont, where I was born. I lived in Massachusetts and Rhode Island as a kid. And then my family moved to a little tiny town in upstate New York called Clinton when I was in the 6th grade, which was a very fortuitous move for me considering my future career, because the people in that area didn't have much of an accent. And so I was able to get rid of my New England accent. So I no longer had to park my car in Harvard Yard, know what I mean? I graduated Clinton High School. I went on to Brown University, where I studied classics and Latin. I loved words even then, and music as well. And I met and married my first husband, Kurt Bennett. You may have heard his name. He used to play for the Atlanta Flames. He started off with the New York Rangers, and we were traded to the Atlanta Flames when the Atlanta Flames first came into being in the early 70s. And we fell in love with Atlanta and made it our home. And so I've lived there ever since. So I've been a resident of the state of Georgia for well over 4 decades. Yes, thank you very much. Well, while Kurt was out playing hockey, I was playing the piano and singing in different clubs and restaurants all over Atlanta. And I ended up going on tour with people like Burt Bacharach and Roy Orbison. But I spent a lot of my time doing commercial work, singing jingles, and doing studio work. And I guess my first claim to fame, at least in the Georgia area, and my first appearance as a machine, thank you very much, Tilly, the all-time teller for First National Bank. Yes, I'm Tilly, the all-time teller. That's enough of that. A lot of the work that we did, though, back in those days, we would sing jingles with groups of people. And usually groups of 4 to 6 people would gather around the microphones and sing jingles. One day, the voice talent didn't show up for whatever reason. And the owner of the studio, Doppler Studios at the time, Pete Caldwell, said, Susan, you don't have an accent. Come over here and read this. And so I read the copy, and I said, oh, I can do this. This is great. So I got some voice coaching, and I started, got an agent as well, and started doing voiceover work, and I've been doing it ever since. And that's also been for several decades now. So thank you, Pete Caldwell. Now, the recording in the 1970s, as you can imagine, was very different than what it is today. Picture a small hutch or a sideboard that you might have in your dining room, maybe, twice the size of this podium. This was the tape machine, and it was either had 2-inch tape, and when those reels of tape were about 10.5 inches in diameter, so we're talking about big machines and big reels of tape. And of course, sometimes there was 1/2-inch tape or 1/4-inch tape. But the significant thing about that was anything that needed to be changed, or if there were any mistakes, the audio engineer had to get out a razor blade, an actual razor blade, cut the tape, remove the unwanted portion, splice it back with more tape. And so you see how far we've come. It's pretty amazing. And because you really didn't want to have too many mistakes back then, those of us that were working at that time had to be fairly good at what we were doing. But the scripts were very important too, because as I'm sure you realize that scripts for being read aloud are very different than scripts that you're just reading to yourself. The sentences need to be short and concise and spelled correctly, and especially punctuated correctly. And if all those things are true, a good voice talent should be able to go in and read through that with very few mistakes. Now, that is no longer the case. Of course, technology, one of the downfalls, I guess, of technology, maybe not a downfall, but certainly a big change, is that it's changing our language. Very much so with email, but particularly with texting. We're doing a lot of abbreviating. We're not necessarily learning a lot of interesting vocabulary that we used to do. And so that's changing the scripts. It's very, very difficult in this day and time to go in and read a script cold and be able to do it exactly right. On the other hand, the audio engineer no longer has to use a razor blade, of course, uses a computer, and like the rest of us, just highlights and deletes, and that's that. So that's kind of freeing, the fact that it's that simple. We can sometimes experiment more with what we're doing. So that's a very interesting thing. Of course, technology has changed all of our lives. It's really changed all of our businesses, how we do business. It's been an incredible thing. For voiceover, it's been nothing short of a revolution. It really has, and that revolution started in 1995 with the advent of something called ISDN, which is Integrated Systems Digital Network. And what that was a system that utilized two phone lines, one for voice, one for data, and then there was another little machine called a codec involved as well, scrambling signals, etc. But the bottom line of this new technology was the voice talent in one city could speak into his or her mic, and it could be recorded anywhere else in the world that had an ISDN system. Absolutely astounding. And this changed everything, because so many of us working in different cities, there would be a group of talent that would do most of the work. Now all of a sudden, the world was open to all of these writers and directors and producers. And so initially, it was quite a blow, because the up-and-coming writers wanted to get maybe some voice talent from New York or LA, some people that were either famous or had a lot more bling than maybe some of their local people might have. And so it was a really difficult thing. There was almost a mass exodus of work from not just Atlanta or other, but every other city. The local talent was feeling this change. But we fought back. We just built our own home studios and equipped it with ISDN and promoted ourselves to other cities, and so life went on. But the technology of the ISDN is still being used. It's nearly 20 years old now, so it's considered a little bit antiquated, but in many cases people still think it's the best quality. And so many times it's preferred over Source Connect or IPDTL or some of these other things that are coming up that are providing recording over the web. So the Siri voice was recorded via ISDN from my little house in Sandy Springs, Georgia, and back in 2005. Now, 2005, if you'll recall, was quite an impactful year. We unfortunately had Hurricane Katrina, but we also had the launching of YouTube and the first airing of the Colbert Report. And it's the year Brad and Angie got together, come on. But also that was the year that many of the voices, the digital voices that you interact with on a regular basis, came into being. That's the year that those voices were being recorded. I know that I did the basic vocabulary that became Siri in July of 2005, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, for the month of July, the last day of which was my birthday. So happy birthday to me. I was able to stop doing all this stuff. It's actually very, very tedious work. Very tedious work, just very repetitive. And although it was very challenging in its own way as well. But as technology moves on, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more digital voices. You know, of course, you can now choose between male and female now on your Apple iPhone. I know that they're going to be having lots and lots of new voices, and I'm sure they're going to be cleaning up the programming so that the voices will be able to understand you better and even come up with quicker answers for you. And also, I think as some of these corporations move more towards artificial intelligence, which is definitely coming, a lot of these digital voices are going to be able to predict what you want even before you ask for it, particularly in reference to something that you might want to buy. So, welcome to this incredible age of technology. So, I personally think that there's going to be some time in the future when you're going to be able to put your own voice on your own device. So, you know, maybe you should start practicing. All I can say is if you need some help, please call Siri. I'm also a voice coach. Thank you so much. That's the story of Siri. Thank you. Now, I understand that there are maybe some people that have some questions. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Hey
Yes.
there, I was just wondering what your thoughts are on the new competitor voices, the commercials we're seeing now, and what you think about that, how they compare Siri to others.
You know, I don't really have any kind of passionate response to that. It's just kind of business as usual. I've never been a great fan of denigrating someone else to make yourself look better. So from that point of view, I don't think it's so great. But you know, it's advertising. You know, that's about all I can say.
Two questions.
Yes.
First of all, when you got your iPhone and you realized it was you, did you want to kind of critique yourself, and did it kind of freak you out, number one? And then number two, contractually, when did they allow you to release your identity?
Okay. To answer the question, I found out that I was Siri from a colleague. She emailed me and said, "We're playing around with this new iPhone. Isn't this you?" And I said, "Oh." I went on the Apple site and I listened and I said, "Yes, that is me." So I was very flattered, but I was also very surprised. And Siri basically, and all of the digital voices really have kind of fallen into a black hole between of the time when technology, where rules, regulations, and laws were catching up with technology. Because all of us who recorded those original Siri voices had no idea that we were becoming Siri. So it was a complete and utter surprise. So those of you who want a loan for a few mil, don't call me. And I'm sorry, repeat your second question.
The second question, was there a contractual agreement that Apple, or they didn't want you to release your identity?
No, the original Siri voices, and it's my opinion and the opinion of some other Siri voices I've spoken to, that the reason they changed the voices is because the originals didn't have non-disclosure agreements. People say, "Oh, do you have a non-disclosure agreement?" No, because then I wouldn't be disclosing that it's me. So I think it's going to take an act of God for you to find out who the new Siri voices are, because I do believe those people have non-disclosure agreements. Apple basically came in after the fact. because the digital voices were recorded for this company that's a text-to-speech company. And so essentially anybody that wanted to buy the voices bought the voice from the company and not from the actual actor, which is really a travesty, but we won't go there. I guess we can just call this a little more corporate behavior.
How does Siri know the answers so quickly?
Now that is something that is totally beyond me. I just provided the voice. I really don't know the complications of that. All I can think of is that some very busy technical people were sitting in many, many rooms coming up with any kind of question that could be asked. Because it is just astounding when you think of the technology. It's absolutely incredible. And people have said to me, oh, isn't it so special that you're the voice of Siri? And my answer is, well, yes, it was special, but when you consider the technology, I mean, it could have been the Wicked Witch of the West's voice, because it was such an amazing thing, and Apple products are so incredibly beautiful. So, they've got all of that going for them. I really can't answer that question. I have no idea. Any other questions?
Is there a particular accent that it tends to like? I speak very Southern, and it understands about every 3 words I say.
Right.
So I've tried different accents to see if I can trick her, to not much avail.
I think you're just going to have to try to speak with as neutral an accent as you possibly can. My husband and I have a funny story about that. A very good friend of his is from Alabama and has a very, very thick Southern accent. And we were in the car with him, and he was talking and trying to get directions and wanted to get directions to Snellville, Georgia. And he kept saying, I want to go to Snailville. I want to go to Snailville. And Siri would go, Snailville, Michigan. No. And so he kept trying. I said, Jim, you really kind of make it more like Snell instead of Snail. And so he finally ended up just giving the phone to me. Yeah, I think you just have to try to be as, neutral as possible. But I really do think with the lightning speed that technology is moving, I really do think that in a very short time, these digital voices are going to be able to recognize accents. I mean, it's only a question of time until they program all of that into these apps. So. Nope, no more questions?
Guess that's it, Siri.
I think I must have answered all of them. You're very welcome.
Susan, thank you so much for being here this evening. What a wonderful story and a wonderful person behind the voice. Please, let's have another round of applause for Susan Bennett. Now, we know that your voice is your life, and on a cool Georgia night, we want to make sure that you're toasty warm. So we're pleased to present you with just a token of our appreciation. This is a master's throw, and you are in Augusta. So we want to make sure that you have a token of our appreciation and something that will remind you of your time here in Augusta.
Thank you so much.
So thank you very much.
Can I have my, there. I'm going to have some very jealous family members. Thank you so much, Sue.
We'll take good care of that voice.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we certainly hope that everyone has had a good time tonight. If I may, I'd like to just take a few minutes in closing to acknowledge some very special individuals and companies that made tonight possible. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge Meredith Anderson, our MC, Mistress of Ceremonies tonight. Please, a round of applause for Meredith. She does a wonderful job every year. Carolyn Ash and our committee, our Women in Business Committee, they worked so very hard on this event. They were here throughout the day putting gift packs together and making sure all of these beautiful orchids are on our table and folding napkins. And so thank you to the entire committee and Caroline. Our signature sponsors this evening, ADP, American Family Insurance, John Deere, Ocasio, and of course, DSW Designer Shoe Warehouse. I've got my bling shoes on, just like Meredith tonight. We hope all of you will remember to take those gift packs. We'll have our volunteers from the committee will be standing at the door. We've got those gift packs for everybody before you go. Our gold level sponsors this evening, Georgia Regents University, of course, Savannah River Nuclear Solutions. Our silver level sponsors, AT&T and Georgia Power. Our bronze level sponsors, again, Caroline Ash, Workforce Capital, Scana Energy. Our media partners, WRDW News 12, the Augusta Chronicle and Augusta Magazine, and iHeartMedia. So please, one more round of applause for all of our sponsors. We have a special program at each table that is the giveaway for our beautiful centerpieces. Those are real orchids put together by Kudos, and we want to make sure that all of them find a good home tonight. So when you open your program, if you have the lucky program at your table, you will have a mark. I believe it's on page 25. Look at the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce ad in the top right-hand corner of that page. It's either 25 or 26. If you have a mark on your ad, you are the lucky recipient of the orchid centerpiece, and you get to take that home tonight. And you can trade if you want. We have a wonderful door prize this evening. Compliments of who else? Designer Shoe Warehouse. It is a $100 gift certificate. And I'm going to pick a lucky card. Shirley Evanson. Congratulations, Shirley. And congratulations to all of you for your participation tonight. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hosting this event, and we hope that you have a safe trip home. Thank you.